Decoding Learning Differences with Kimberlyn Lavelle, and this episode is IEP Checklist. So in this episode, we're going over a gift that I have for you and how you can use it. There should be a link down below to grab it, so do that now or after, whatever. If you're watching, you'll be able to see it as I go through it. If you're listening, make sure you download it. That'll make it a little bit easier as we follow along. Or you can go find the video and watch it. I always have these as audio, but lately I keep having visuals that are useful to look at. So that is also good for you. Okay, so we're going to take a look. This is what you're going to be getting. It's the IEP checklist. And underneath it says, determine for yourself if a proposed IEP is sufficiently comprehensive and will meet the needs of your child. So this is basically like me putting a simple version of like what I'm checking through in my brain into a checklist for you. It's fairly simple, but definitely I think you will enjoy it. Okay, so this page is the IEP guide, IEP checklist guide. So as you look over your child's IEP, keep in mind the principle of clarity. You should be able to visualize exactly what your child is able to do, will be able to do, and how they will be able to do it, with which accommodation supports, based on what's written in the IEP. So if you can't picture it, ask questions, ask for more clarity to be added. And then I have a link here that you should be able to click on, and it's watch parts of an IEP. So there's a link here to another podcast episode that goes over all the parts of an IEP, which will help you understand all of this better. Okay. First section you're looking at is information and eligibility. So I'm kind of giving you some things to think about in each of the sections. That's this whole checklist, is going through each section and giving you things to think about. In a couple of spots, you'll see links to videos that you should watch about that topic. So information and eligibility. Is everything accurate? And a lot of this is gone over in the parts of an IEP video, so that's a really good one to watch for all of this, or listen to. That's also an option. So is everything accurate? The primary disability is the one most impacting your child's education. Secondary is the next most impactful if present, and any other should just be in the reports, not on this part of the IEP. All the IEPs I've seen at least only give space for 2 disabilities. So if there's a third disability that exists, it should be in the reports. It might be in the notes, especially of an initial or a triennial, but it won't necessarily be on the information and eligibility page. So you are checking that the information is accurate and everything. You're checking the eligibility statement. You're making sure that it's describing how the disability impacts your child's education. This is a place where dyslexia can show up if it's not an option to list it as a disability. So most of the IEPs that I see don't have dyslexia as a checkbox. They can't list dyslexia as the name of the disability. They can only list specific learning disability as the name, but they can put in the eligibility statement that specific learning disability is dyslexia. They can also use whatever their own way of saying that is, which might be specific learning disability in the area of reading due to a auditory processing or a phonological processing disorder. Present levels is a whole section on what your child can do. It actually is not supposed to state anything your child cannot do. It is supposed to be written from the frame of, so for example, in a more extreme case, you've got a 4th grader. They cannot read at all. It might say something like, Susie knows the letters A, C, and F. It is what she can do. That might be, and I wouldn't even word it that way. Can verbally name the capital letters A, C, and F, and the lowercase letters A, C, and F, or, A plus G, or whatever, whatever it is. So even though it's like, but she's in 4th grade and she can't read at all, and people feel like they want to put that in there, the present levels page should not include that, like, a negative spin on anything. Like, you wouldn't say cannot read at grade level, or cannot decode, or cannot, like, you would just say, to some, in general, what can she do? What can she do? If it's going to be what she can't do, it would be basically listed as like a score. Susie scored 0 out of 6 on the 1st grade benchmark of decoding. Whatever it is, right? Like, it's just facts and what she can do, ideally more than what she can't do. But if it is a can't, then it needs to just be like data. And ideally, you want to get down to what can she do? What is her actual baseline starting point? Okay, hopefully that is clear. There's usually, as part of the present levels, it's usually in there. It could be somewhere else in the IEP, but you're going to have a parent concern section. This is where you can say whatever you want to say. Make sure that they write what you say. I've seen IEPs where parents are like, that's not my concerns. Like, they're writing things, I might have said those words, but that's not what I want there. So make sure that they're writing what you want in that section. It is a list of your concerns. So parent concerns and child strengths are very important. What your child is able to do, what your child is really good at. It's the time to point out how amazing your kid is, in spite of whatever the disability is, whatever the struggles are at school. Praise up that kid. And please take time to think about this before the IEP meeting. I think I've said it before. I've had meetings where I'm trying to go around the table and ask about a kid I've never met. Oh, what are their strengths? What are their interests? And I stopped asking at the meeting. I eventually stopped doing that because there were multiple times where I asked and no one said anything. And that's heartbreaking because everyone knows the kid's good at something. They have a strength, they have an interest, right? But in the moment, when they're put on the spot and when what's at the forefront of their mind at that meeting is all the problems, all the difficulties, all the struggles, they're not thinking about all the strengths of that child. So I did stop asking cold at the meeting and would message everyone ahead of time, get feedback from everyone ahead of time, read that ahead of time, read that at the meeting, and then ask if there was anything else that anyone wanted to add. But it's all there. It's already filled in. And most of the time, I already knew the kid at least enough that I could fill stuff in there. Even if I'd only met them twice while I tested them, I'll fill in whatever I've got. But most of the time, there's a lot that people can come up with when they're not on the spot. So think about that ahead of time in case you get put on the spot. What are all your kids' strengths? You want to have that. You can add it in. If you're looking over an IEP that's already been written, you can say, hey, this wasn't included. Can you go ahead and add this in? They may or may not. They might say, oh, no, we can't because it's closed. I don't know. There can always be an amendment, but see, this is my problem. I get into like nitpicky little things about what you can do about it. And this is why it takes me hours and hours to go through one IEP. And I did mean to say that before. when I'm going through an IEP for a client, I'm going through all of this. I'm kind of asking myself all of these questions. And I'm getting down to like these like nitpicky little things. I'm going over this stuff with clients, like asking them these questions. Is there any other strengths that you can think of that you would want added? Blah, blah, blah. You can ask the team for this. If they say this, then we can do this. So it takes a lot of time. I'm usually spending at least 2 hours going through an IEP before I meet with the family, then another hour, hour and a half, 2 hours talking with them, going over it, coming up with a plan, all of this. So it's easily 5+ hours between before meeting with them, after I meet with them, that I'm dedicating to one IEP. And I'm going over that fine-tooth comb. So I'm trying to give everyone this tool to do it themselves so that you don't have to hire me or anyone else, that it's there for you to do yourself. But if you feel confused, if you feel overwhelmed, if it feels like a lot, just know it is a lot. And there is a lot to know. There is a lot of nuance to it. And I'm very happy to help you, but it's there. Okay. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. So goal areas, we've talked about goals a lot, but at the end of the present levels page, there's usually a section that's just about goals need to be written in this specific area, these areas. And then you're going back to, okay, well, reading, and you can list out the skill within reading, like decoding, fluency, comprehension, vocabulary. You're listing out phonemic awareness based on those skills. So Susie knows the name of 3 letters. She doesn't know any sounds. She doesn't, right? No discernible reading skills are there. So then we're coming up with a plan of what does she need. We don't have to get super clear yet on what we're going to work on, but you're going to have something about identifying sounds of letters. Could be the goal area, or it could just be reading, phonics. Sometimes people just say phonics, or decoding, or letter recognition, letter sound recognition. There's different ways of saying the same thing, kind of, but just whatever it is, goal area. It's kind of the broad area, like reading fluency. It would be a broad area. Reading comprehension is a broad area. Math facts. It could even just be math, but I usually like it a tad more specific than that broad. So I don't like reading. I like reading comprehension. But that's also me being a little bit nitpicky. So in general, you need some kind of goal areas, and then whatever they list as the areas that goals need to be written in, there should be a matching goal in the proposed goals. All of those goals should be SMART goals. They should be clearly written. So I've got several links here for you to click on and see those goals, see how a goal should be written, how to analyze a goal. There's a lot that I've gone over already. So please refer back to those episodes on all of that content. It will definitely help you out. Okay, so you'll notice this one, accommodations, is also a link. So don't miss that one, it's underlined. I should have done a different color too, but accommodations is also a link. So you can click on that as another place that you can go to get more information about what accommodations should look like, what that all should include. Services, it has to consider the least restrictive environment. And then I'm kind of defining that very quickly here. There is a lot of nuance to it, but basically it's in which environment is the student able to access the curriculum with positive social emotional impact. So they're able to learn and not feel shitty about themselves. I'm getting tired. So there are other forms that are on an IEP, but different kids need different ones. Different states require different ones. So I kind of lumped it just as there's other forms. Most of them are straightforward. They're easy to figure out. Read them, make sure they're accurate, point out that, no, actually my kid is not an English language learner, so why is this box checked? And they're like, oops. They miss things all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean they were going to do something, but it can kind of mess things up down the road. So just check it. You always want it to be accurate. Again, they've got a ton that they're doing. It takes a lot of time to write an IEP. They're going to make mistakes. Please forgive them. Please be forgiving, and allowing for that, but also but as I've always said, right? You have the time, not that you necessarily have much time. You care more about your child than anyone else. They might care so much about your kid, and they care just as much about the other 27 kids. Therefore, you care more about that child than they ever can. And you are an extra set of eyes for them. So think of yourself as an important part of the team, extra set of eyes, extra way to help make sure that everything is written well. Don't assume that they're just being lazy and whatever, but because it is a lot of work. I promise you, it is a lot of work. Signature page. This I'm just listing out. You might choose that you want to sign full agreement. You're just signing it right now. You agree with everything. Full agreement. You might sign that you fully disagree. The whole thing is terrible. Doesn't address any of the concerns you have. Has terribly written goals. Doesn't provide the services. The accommodations aren't there. Whatever. It's all terrible. More likely, it's a partial agreement. You agree to certain things, but not others. And you can write out exactly what you disagree with. And then the IEP team needs to resolve that. They need to have another meeting with you. They need to go over things. They need to get to a point where everyone agrees and there is a signed IEP that you fully agree with. It doesn't mean it's perfect necessarily, but it means that it is good. It is meeting the needs. The very last thing I have on here is you might want to bring documents and a friend or advocate to an IEP meeting. You might want to ask for an IE. You might want to consider a 504. And then I have a link here, learn more here, which will take you to more videos to consider. Okay. So then I said it's a checklist and doesn't look like a checklist, right? Well, that's the checklist guide. The actual checklist is very simple. So I reviewed, so you're just checking for yourself. I've gone over these things. This is just an area you can put a little note about that thing. If there's just a quick thing that you want to remind yourself of, a place where you can write down questions for the team, and then more information about working with me. So that is one option of how to work with me, is this package that's talked about, but there's other options. So give me an email or reach out. We'll work something out. Whatever's good for you. Okay. That is a lot, especially the way I did it. If you've not downloaded the IEP checklist yet, please do that now. And if you have any questions, any concerns, or you want me to do all of the checklisting for you, reach out to me. Hopefully I still have openings when you do. It is Kimberlyn@decodinglearningdifferences.com. I'm here to help.